Hiya, and welcome back to Far Beyond the World. The game that teaches us... Insert joke about blackmail and bunnies. Or bunnies are the best at blackmail. There we go. I can't think of much else to say, so fuck. Yeah, I can't think of much else to say, so let's just hop right in. How it's going to turn out, so we're going to hide that. Ranok leads me quite a while without saying a word, but once we're far enough, I finally blurt out in half jest. So, you sure Cora's not into you? The wolf doesn't regard me. In fact, he increases his pace. Cora said someone was going through our house. Wait, what? I blink, coming to a stop. She couldn't say it in the open, so she needed a reason to whisper it to me. You mean all that groping was just for show? Fuck, why am I so easily riled up? Of course you wouldn't lie about not being into Ranok. Why am I even focusing on this nonsense when I've just been told we were burgled? Did she know who it was? No, she didn't. And she was rather afraid to check. If they're bold enough to raid my house, who knows what they would do next. Oh wait, he's wearing pants. We're good. Do you think it's the elders, one of their goons? Might be. He shrugs worriedly, pacing in a small circle. Fuck, I've never heard of anything like this. Like what? Someone breaking into your home. It just doesn't happen. Really? I scoff in slight disbelief. It's not like they've set up here their little paradise lost. Yes, really? We're a tight-knit community, I know. I sigh teasingly, looking at him with a gentle smile. I mean, there isn't anything at your house that is incriminating. I say with confidence, which slowly fades. Is there? There's no additional bedding for one. Could be that you make me sleep on the floor. He gives me a pretty condescending look as if I said something stupid. What? I'm not drawn. I have a reputation of a soft paw. A soft paw? A wolf is extremely lenient with his wards. Trist never slept rough. I ponder for a moment and snap my fingers. I make up my bedding every day and put it away. I mean, why wouldn't I? The cottage is small. I guess. He sounds unconvinced, but my mind drifts to another matter entirely. There wasn't anything precious at the cottage, right? Like, you weren't robbed just now, were you? No. I have all my valuables on me, and you're here, so even if the cottage burned down, nothing important would be lost. I smile involuntarily as he continues to betray his concern for me at every moment. Well then, nothing to worry about, right? Someone just came in, looked around for some dirt, and left with nothing. He mutters, really upset by the whole debacle. Feels strange to know someone was in your house while you were away, you know? Wait, what happens if I... And then... I think I'm talking into the weaker side of the microphone. I don't know. I was at your house while you were away. I tease, but he doesn't take the bait. Uninvited, I mean. Sorry, was trying to lighten the mood. You've been through so much already that this was the last thing you need right now. I place a hand on his shoulder. But I know what you mean. Makes you feel vulnerable and almost violated. I bet those old-timers are behind it. Father warned me they were stirring trouble. Them and quite a few others, but I'm not about to say that out loud. He's got enough on his plate. We'll have to make a sweep of the ground once we head back. I nod in agreement as we make our way back towards the grounds when I remember our excuse from the table. Wait, shouldn't you take a leak at least? What? Why? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. So they can smell you've actually done it? Don't be ridiculous. No one's going to be sniffing out for my piss. He snorts in bemusement, and I simply shrug. As you say, the wolf notices my confusion and decides to indulge me. We have a keen sense of smell, true, but that leads to information overload. Most of the time, your mind blocks off unnecessary information. It's only when we focus on a scent when we can harness the detail. Huh. I sound slightly confused, and he laughs. In other words, if you're not sniffing for something, or most importantly, don't know what you're sniffing for, you won't smell it. I narrow my brow at its obvious tone. How should I know how their senses work? But I guess it's a good piece of information to hold on to. And considering I've just done the laundry, I don't think the intruder could sniff anything of significance relating to me, so I sigh in relief. Why do I keep opening up that program? There we go. Once we arrive back at the table, the conversation about Regar's pack continues in earnest. I notice Vol is listening intently while Anel leaned over onto his shoulder, sleeping. Aww. It's actually quite cute how the black male seems to not mind her one bit. I wonder if she's faking it again. So, how many wolves in total did you get? Hiya. Get back, you hold a trigger finger on that sensor. Oh god, oh god. Oh god. Okay, like, with the censoring, I actually have to, like, click behind it and then click on the thing, like the little eyeball on here. Like, let me show you real quick. I can find it. Right here. Yeah, it's like right here that I have to click on for the censorship thing. So, how many wolves in total did you get? With Delron's 4, 11. Only 3 escaped. So you decimated 2 neighboring packs. Drawn pitches in with a scolding tone in his voice. Shut the fuck up, Drawn. Shut the fuck up. Again, wouldn't have to do any decimating if they weren't here to begin with. The female states sternly and many nods in agreement, including Ranok, as we take our seats. Besides, she pauses, reluctant to proceed, but the chief encourages her. What is it? I don't want to sound crazy, but they didn't seem to be packs at all. What do you mean? The male tilts his head in confusion as the female tries to collect her thoughts. They didn't have rangers with them, scouts, nor any typical pack structure. Just regular warriors, some quite heavily armed. Heavily armed? Fully plated, in fact. The walking tin wolves seem to be of foreign extraction. Of foreign extraction? What are you trying to say, girl? The pudgy elder throws in impatiently. They weren't Avalon wolves. Their language sounded funny. You mean to say that Vortigern brought in wolves from across the sea? She shrugs awkwardly. Again, not claiming to be an expert on the matter, but that's what it looked to me. If Vortigern is making overtures towards the Wolven Horde, this is indeed troubling, and would explain his underhanded use of diplomatic immunity. The chief scoffs in the direction of the crumpled piece of paper, which lies where it landed. So he hired a group of mercenaries. What of it? Aldris sneers, crossing her arms and leaning back in her seat like a petulant child. I hope you fall out of your seat. And what if those aren't just mercenaries? What if he brought their experts to train his wolves in the art of warfare? What if he's reorganizing his tribe into a proper army? Are you suggesting our army is not proper? The female raises her voice, intentionally drawing attention from the neighboring tables and stirring murmurs among the gathered. With the stakes this high, it's not like the others were ignoring the conversation up to this point, but this little stunt made them pay attention twofold. The chief takes note of that and takes a deep breath, weighing his words carefully. I'm suggesting that we've been following an outdated dogma that prevented progress. Our troops are more suited for guerrilla warfare, limited to these woods alone. We don't stand a chance facing a regular army. Not like the one wolves field across the sea. We stood against Tigron when you weren't even born. I lived through it. Aldris states proudly, pushing her sausage-like fingers deep into her chest, but the chief remains silent, taking a moment to stand up. Hey, I've heard that story many times, just as my other wolf did. All 6 tribes united, tens of thousands of wolves lost to a single battle mage with barely a handful of troops at his command. He takes a deep gulp from his chalice. It wasn't a war, it was a joke. Tigron didn't even bother to send in their real army. Our ancestors fought valiantly. The female snarls, stomping in anger, again trying to make a spectacle so that everyone pays attention to what's being said. The feasting ground goes quiet like a graveyard. More than 100 wolves seated, and you can hear a pin drop. The chief takes another deep breath and smiles at the inciting female. They fought valiantly, they fought bravely, and the tigers made a picnic on their graves. If Vortigern is mobilizing, it means he's making plans much bigger than just a border skirmish. What's worse, this is not going to look mighty well in the capital. The Sorcerer King is not going to take lightly to one of our own treating treating with a woven horde just as their war was concluded. Vithar leans in, refilling his friend's cup. Those damn dire wolves are trying to open a back door to Tigeron and use us as their cannon fodder. You may dislike me all you like, Aldris, but even you must see where this is headed. We retained our sovereignty at the Sorcerer King's whim. We preserved it by blood and steel. She shouts out, but this time the chief had enough. At the Sorcerer King's whim. He roars, slamming his goblet against the table and sending the wine cascading every which way. Everyone's frozen in place as his rattled breath echoes across the grounds, until Vithar places upon his friend's shoulder and brings him down to his seat. He calmly replenishes Varrock's cup again and gives the old female an aggravated look. We're just his pen stroke away from losing everything we own. You do understand that, right? Of course, she doesn't. She's never been outside of the moon-damned forest. The chief sneers through his clenched teeth. Yes, but he was. Vithar nods to Drawn. You've been yes-mamming her drivel your entire life. Perhaps now it's time you grow a pair and speak some sense into that woman. Aldris snarls at the brown male while Drawn fidgets nervously. You've been out there, in the real world. Tell her where do we feature on every map? The old male tries to gather his courage, but falters until the female gives him a penetrating look. He's right. As far as everyone's concerned, we're part of Tigeron. So, you see, we're here, left to our own devices because the tigers don't care. At first, it seems that they're finally getting through to her, as she listens intently to what the chief has to say. I need you to understand how important it is that they continue to not care. Because if we make them care, then everything your precious ancestors ever worked for, everything you've ever claimed to strive for, will become undone within a blink of an eye. She's not a fucking potato. What's the largest vegetable in existence? I'm going to make a fat joke. I feel like that might be funny. Like a largest vegetable in the world. Tropical yams. What do they look like? Tropical yams. Okay, they kind of look like potatoes. Are yams potatoes? It's true, yams and sweet potatoes are totally different plants and are not even closely related. In fact, the tasty starchy veggies are actually in two different plant families entirely. She's a yam. She's a tropical yam. That's the largest potato not potato. Hiya. Be they mercenaries or advisors, if Vortigern invited wolves from Euron to his court, it'll be seen as an insult in the capital. But all her calm was an illusion. It appears she was simply waiting for another slip of the tongue to get hanged over. I see that time you spent with the tigers rubbed off on you. To call that tigery city in such a manner. It is the capital, whether you like it or not. The heart of Avalon beats in Tigeron. The chief snorts as if he was addressing a naive pup. The Lynxian, the Panthori, the Ankari, and the Felinians all pledge their allegiance to the Alliance of Tigeron. Even the damned Huskies and human Jarldoms cooperate with them. Vithar reinforces the point, counting all the different species on his fingers. If Vortigern starts something foolish, we will have their entire continent on our head. Yes, not a first time I've heard a doomsayer spin his tail. But as always, Aldris is not receptive. How would a single tribe start a war with Tigeron? It wouldn't. The chief shrugs, catching her by surprise and drawing everyone's attention back to the exchange. Vortigern is smart, ambitious, and above all, patient. Never liked the Git, always been a grubby wolf. He's more of your persuasion. He nods to the pudgy female. Always struck me as a petty little schemer. But we ought to give credit where credit's due. He always got what he wanted, one way or another. Not unlike your friend over there and his father before him. Even their methods seem mighty similar. Aldris deflects, and a slight gasp could be heard from among the gathered. Vithar looks at his friend with worry as the chief's lips curl up to reveal his fangs, but no outburst comes forth. Anel, please, wake up and defuse the situation. Please, Anel. Even Ranok is clearly unsettled, and it seems that the comment holds a deeper meaning that is completely lost on me. Be it as it may, it is clear that the throne of Goldarin was not the end of Vortigern's ambitions. The brown wolf seizes the opportunity to return the conversation on track. If he's probing our borders, it means he's getting ready to make his bid. A bid for what? For Turnin. And not just our tribe, but the entire damned forest, from Onwin all the way to Arden. He states plainly, taking a shallow sip and drawing a few murmurs from surrounding tables. Aldrich takes a careful look over the gathered and simply laughs it off. This is absurd. The Wolven Horde just concluded a very costly and humiliating peace with the Emperor of Lioness, the Goldmane Kingdom, and the Alliance of Tigeron. Why would they waste their resources now on a backwater on the other side of the world? He poses a rhetorical question, and when Aldrich could not provide an answer, the chief simply picks up for her. Indeed, they must have had assurances, and the only thing enticing enough I could imagine is the unification of our people under their banner, to create another front in their enemy's backyard. This is all nonsense. The pudgy female exhales in amusement, shaking her head. You two are drunk with power and high on epic tales of old. Hiya. She speaks mockingly, using her stool almost like a stage for her oratory skills. You talk as if our brothers from across the sea planned a worldwide conflict. What was the last one but a world war? Vithar proposes another question, this time without any levity in his voice. From the deserts of Kemet through Persin and Ras Musavi, I definitely butchered those, all the way up to Ursa Highlands. They engulfed all 3 continents in their war, not once, but 3 times over, and that's just in the last century alone. He emphasizes with a slightly risen voice. If you act like a mad dog, you'll be treated like one, and I'm no brothers with savage beasts about to be put down. This so-called Wolven Horde has managed to unite every single other kin in this world against them. They've given canines a bad name. The chief recounts. Not only that, they've abandoned Aluna herself. They've burned down her sacred grove and turned to their perverse magics. He adds with no hidden disgust in his voice. If half of what the other kin say about them is true, he pauses, clearly struggling to understand Aldrich's point of view. How is it that their sudden involvement with our northern neighbor does not unsettle you? All this is just hearsay, based on the word of this pup. Aldrich tries to sound confident, but it's clear her composure is wavering. As usual, when running out of arguments, she resorts to the dumbest of insults. Regar is thrice her size. She's no pup. And the irony doesn't seem to be lost on Vithar and the chief. She's the daughter of the best smith this side of the woods. If she says they wore foreign steel, I'm willing to bet my life on it. We really need to convey a howl and pray it isn't too late. The chief waves his paw dismissively, clearly losing patience with his quibbling. Drawn. He addresses the old male with an almost pleading expression. For the first time, I see the old male clearly torn and almost unsettled, casting nervous gazes between his defined companion and the chief. Your only son is out there, fighting moon knows what odds. Surely you don't mean to leave his hardships unanswered. I would. He tries to muster the courage to speak, but the vile woman cuts him off. Drawn knows his place in the tribe, and so does Dalron. We're not swayed by petty sentiments, unlike the two of you. To us, the good of the tribe is of paramount importance. Which tribe, I begin to wonder. Vithar mutters in a harsh, cold tone, taking a sip of wine, while the female can barely collect herself. But it doesn't take long for her to blow a gasket and start howling like the mad bitch she is. How dare you! I gave my entire life for our people. Unsuccessfully, obviously, some tried much harder at your behest. The entire forest is filled with name trees of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. So don't you dare go telling me what you gave up for your tribe. The brown male sneers, but the chief has clearly had enough and once again waves his palm patiently. I'd say we're getting nowhere here. I'll give you two a moment to discuss this amongst yourselves, but come midnight we shall vote whether or not to invoke a howl. He raises from his seat, and everyone gets up, apart from Vol, who tries to nudge Enel from her sleep. No, don't. Let her rest. The wreath won't fall far from my head just because you're seated. Come, I want to talk with you. The old male looks back to my wolf and nods in the direction of the forest. Ranok helps me to my feet, but the chief sneers in annoyance. Let the damn monkey be. Nothing's going to happen to him in the span of just a few moments. The gray wolf looks at me with worry, but I shrug him with a reassuring smile. I am going to be just fine. Whatever's going on is much more important. With the chief and Ranok taking their leave, everyone slowly disperses, and the grounds resemble what I've seen the first time around, with different wolves mingling and chatting. And there's plenty to chat about, that's for sure. I take idle sips of wine, discreetly paying attention to what's being said at the nearby tables. Everyone's very much on edge and concerned that a war might be coming, but whom they would fight seems as confusing to them as it is to me. The common theme seems to be a reluctance to openly battle with their own kin, although very few appear willing to forego transgressions committed by their northern neighbors. The elders also took notice of the conversations and decided to take rounds between the various tables, talking to prominent tribeswolves with the aim to most likely sway their opinions. Somewhere in this commotion, Vither disappeared, most likely to find his daughter and ensure she's out of harm's way, fearing another spat with the elders. I really hate those old farts. Their behavior leaves very little doubt about how rotten they truly are. And before long, I have another proof, almost as if the universe tried to mock me. Aldris, the fat bitch, begins storming towards the table, clearly stomping in my direction. She pushes her mug in my face while poking Nell harshly in the shoulder, stirring the old female from another one of her naps. Do you intend to simply vegetate here? Maybe you join the discussion. It's worded more like a demand than a suggestion. And I frown, leaning slightly to the side as the cup is still very much in my face. Oh no, I think I've had enough excitement for one night. I'll just stay where I am, thank you. Ugh, what was the point of even dragging you here? Aldris sneers and looks to me with anger. She pivots around the table and grabs my wrist, shaking me to and fro. Wine, you damned moron, I haven't gone all night. At first I'm startled, but my anger finally kicks in, and I decide there and then not to dance to her tune ever again. I simply sit there, looking at her with a puzzled expression. I'm a dumb ape after all. That human has all the makings of an idiot. But my little gambit is about to turn sour as a female loses her patience and lifts her arm with a clear intent to hit me. I'll teach you some obedience. What are you doing? Regara arrives in the nick of time, calling out in both shock and anger and causing the elder female to reconsider. You would strike a guest at a dinner table? Her voice carries an oddly serious tone. Even Enel is quite surprised. I love Enel. If something were to happen to, I would kill everyone at this table and then myself. Surely you wouldn't. The frail female adds in a worried tone. Why, violating hospitality rights is a serious crime. It would even make your father roll in his grave. He's not a guest. Aldris protests through a growl, but the towering female does not let up and moves in closer to square off with that vile woman. The chief declared him so, and as far as I'm aware, his word is the law. Of all the damned bunnies have bolted somewhere, how else am I supposed to get a refill? As she says so, I cast my gaze around, and true to her statement, there is no attendant to be seen in sight. I guess they've used the recess to talk among themselves. After all, the issue relates to them as much as it does to the wolves. You're not a cripple. Fetch your own damned wine. I managed just fine, and I've returned from battle. With barely a scrape. Still more than you've ever experienced. Listen here, you overgrown bitch. Fuck, I can't believe Granny's missing all of this. The black wolf froze in indifferently, taking a prolonged and very slurpy sip of his ale. She always loved good gossip. Bringing her up to speed about this circus should prove entertaining. And again, as if it were a magic spell, the sheer mention of her sister causes Aldris to fall silent, and the female fidgets uncomfortably. Who's your grandma, pray tell? You look mighty familiar. I would pay to see that. I would pay to see Aldris roll down a hill. And Nell gives Volif a careful look, almost as if she saw him for the first time. She's your friend, Nell. My friend? Oh, what joyous news. The frail female clasps her paws in pure bliss. I thought all my friends were long gone. Fortunately, not all of them. It's just the shits that stick around and stink up the place. That comment clearly annoys Aldris, and I can tell by her tightened grip on my arm and I groan in pain. This is going to leave another mark. If the monkey won't serve, pass me the bottle at the very least. The pudgy female throws demandingly at Vol, and the wolf scoffs. Fuck no, I'm not your damned waiter. This is our wine. You can fetch your drink from the common tables. Enraged, Aldris lets go of my arm and shoves it away, pointing her sausage-like finger at the towering female. Now listen here and listen well. You can have my cup, dearie. Enel interjects, offering the chalice to the nasty bitch in her shaky paws. Should save you the trouble. Aldous veers around the table and snatches the cup with a subdued growl, storming off and grumbling under her breath. Bunch of soft wolves infatuated with a stunted mongrel. You're welcome. The frail female mutters, and I sigh heavily, really thankful to be surrounded with kind and assertive wolves who look out for me. New location. I get up from my spot and go behind the pavilion. There, as I suspected, I find a side cupboard from which I fetch one of the clean cups. When I return to the table, I nod for the wine bottle, which is slightly out of my reach, and Regard gives it to me with a smile. I fill up a replacement cup for Enel and pass it to her. She takes it with a gentle nod and a kind smile. Before she can say a thing, I can hear Aldous angered shouting from afar. Had it been a wolf, one would have thought it's doing it on purpose. The female snarls in my direction, and I snort discreetly, shrugging it off and returning to my spot. Let's go. Actually, maybe not. I was told never to hit a female. I was told never to hurt one. Now that there's only us at the table, I take a discreet glance at Tano, who's been quiet throughout the entire feast so far. Not sure if he's fuming over a surrendered seat or simply hatching another plan to torment me. Oh, I forgot that the thing's still there. Oh my god. He seems very focused and agitated, as he's almost playing with his knife, chiseling something nervously into the side of the table. He's oddly quiet for his usual self, but my attention is quickly drawn to the overgrown female. Despite Enel softly snoozing again between them, Regard takes this opportunity to lean towards the black wolf. So, since I no longer have a mate, I guess this means I'm back on the market. Full, how about you and me, you handsome beast? Our pups would be hulking monsters who would conquer the world. Wow. She winks at him, causing the male to fluster. Vol is really cute when he can't handle his own flavor of advances. What an appealing perspective. He mutters uncomfortably and stands up, nudging Enel to rest herself against Regard's shoulder instead. I'd better go and fetch Versa. She'll be needed for the vote. Yes. And off he goes, bolting with the tail tucked between his legs, causing me to chuckle. I think this is it.
Okay, there's this. More this.
What a coward. If you dish it out, you should be able to take it. I shake my head in amusement and simply continue nibbling on my dinner, washing it down from time to time with wine. In truth, I prefer this over the ale, especially since this vintage is actually quite sweet, almost like boozy grape juice. None of that vinegary stuff tastes at all, which I normally associate with wines. But my idle enjoyment quickly comes to an end, as with the black wolf gone, the white one sweeps into action. Before I even know it, he's already on me, grabbing my hand and pulling me up to my feet. Walk with me. Now. He demands in a hushed tone as I try to object. Let go of me. I whisper, but seeing that we're drawing Regard's attention, I fall dead silent. What are you doing? The female looks to the white wolf with doubt. Nothing, I just need him to help me with... He struggles to come up with a lie, and she gives him a knowing look. Tano, leave the human be. I'm really in no mood for your antics tonight. Why does everyone keep assuming that I want to do something? Because you're a devious little git. Ranok saved my life, and he is very set on this little one. If you harm him in any way, I should have to harm you in turn. The human and I are fine. The white wolf protests, and the female throws a curious gaze to me and tilts her head almost as if she was trying to figure something out. Unsettled, I simply poke Tano discreetly so that he would let go of me, and the wolf complies. He raises his paws in defeat and gives Regar a dumb smile. See? Nothing underhanded here. Now, would you please? Tano then looks at me with a rather pleading expression and unfolds his hands in a direction where he means to lead me. I simply nod and we walk away from the table, leaving puzzled Regar to tend to Anel. Similar to Ranok, Tano leads me into the woods and we meander through the trees until the sound of the feasting ground is just a distant murmur. He finally stops and shoves me back a few steps, snarling, donning his angered muzzle. Is your intention to get killed tonight? What? No. Then what the fuck are you doing, antagonizing her like that in the open? I wasn't antagonizing anyone. I protest, but he simply sneers at me with annoyance. I saw you fucking around with Anel to piss off Aldris. I wasn't fucking around, I was being nice and helpful. Oh please, I've been playing this bullshit on others for far too long to not recognize when others do it. The small wolf utters in a mocking tone, clearly hinting at his act at the previous feast. So, you admit to being nice to me only to piss off Ranok. I didn't deny you had some inclinations towards that senile old she-wolf. He snorts in slight offense and I scoff. Is that to say you have any towards me? I don't have any misgivings about you yet, but that credit of trust begins to wane pretty fast with the way you act. You know what? I'm not going to distrust this trust and table manners with you. I roll my eyes in annoyance. He's the last one to preach to me about either. Fucking little creep. In fact, now that I think about it, I bet it was you who sent someone to ransack Ranok's house. Ranok's house? He blinks in immediate surprise. What are you talking about? Oh, please. I mimic his mannerism. Stop with the fucking games and get to the point. What do you want from us? I already told you. And I wouldn't have my associates come anywhere near that dumb wolf. Tano protests fervently, getting red with anger almost as if I threw boiling water at him. I have enough Ranok-related drama to last me a lifetime. What's this weird animosity between you two? Why do I have a feeling you somehow redirect some of it on me? If that's what you feel, then you really need to work on your perception. He grunts mockingly and leaning against one of the trees with his arms crossed. My issues with Ranok are my own. I don't entangle others in that web. Cora seems to think otherwise and she claims to be your friend. Look, I'm not going to discuss my relationships with an outsider. The wolf barely contains a growl. My issues with Ranok have nothing to do with you. If I truly harbored any resentment based on my bad history with him, I'd have your head served to that idiot on a silver platter. Maybe. I shrug, unconvinced yet slightly unsettled by his words. Or maybe you're just playing a long game I'm yet to understand. I could see why you'd think that. Distrusting me is the safest course of action, and I very much recommend it. So you're admitting I shouldn't trust you? You shouldn't trust anyone, not even Ranok. He sighs heavily, walking off a few steps. It's your odd trusting nature that keeps perpetuating the shit show. You like hearing the sound of your own voice, don't you? As a matter of fact, I do. He snorts. Some would say it's my best quality. You mean your only quality. Now, who's the one being spiteful? The wolf smirks and I roll my eyes. Ugh, I begin to understand why everyone dislikes you so much. You would drive a saint berserk. Why? Because I make valid points? Your points are as valid as likely as your points are as valid as likely are your bullshit stories. I sneer in annoyance, losing my patience for his dumb mind games. If you hadn't raided Ranok's house, then who did? I ask mockingly, although my conviction slowly falters seeing his puzzled expression. What do you mean? Wait, are you saying that someone actually went through his house? His shock tells me that he took it at first as a blind accusation, but now I might have told him more than I should have. It's clear that he picks up on my sudden shift and he grabs my shoulder sternly. Tell me what happened. I shouldn't have said anything. Well, you've already said it. Did someone go through Ranok's house or not? I nod reluctantly. Not only it's too late to backtrack from it, but having him left lingering might only lead to more of his nosiness. Seriously? He sounds almost as shocked at the revelation as Ranok was. You're the nosiest wolf in the village. Why so surprised? Because this is taking it a bit too far. Well, if it wasn't you, then I suppose it's the elders. Tano shakes his head, his brows narrowed in deep thought. No, they're rash but not dumb. Breaking into another wolf's den is... He takes a deep breath, closing his eyes in defeat. This is serious. Well then, who would have done it? I don't know. I'm not sure if he's faking the concern or if this really unsettles him. But as of now, he's the best lead I could possibly have, so I decide to appeal to his ego. You're very nosy and incredibly clever. Everyone keeps saying so, how dangerously perceptive Tano is. If you can't figure this out, what chance do I have? At first he looks at me with a raised brow, taken aback by my words. But as I finish my little pep talk, he gives me a smile filled with pity. Nice try. Fine, I sigh. If flattery won't work, then how about taking you on your word? You said you want to keep me safe, now's your chance to prove it. I don't feel safe in a raided house. The wolf takes a deep sigh and walks a few paces in one direction, then the other. Maybe one of his pack members did it? He proposes, but he doesn't sound too convinced. I couldn't help but notice that Tyron, in particular, doesn't like you. The other creep wolf? Are you talking about Vither's son? No, it's none of his wolves. I shake my head. Vol told them off, and they took it quite seriously. Dryer. We're all actors here. You just happen to be the worst one. I doubt they were pretending, not with Vol. I give him a doubtful stare. Perhaps you're right. He shrugs, but quickly his expression turns to that of actual concern as he comes to a stop. But that would only leave Andalt, in which I would suggest you start sleeping with your shutters and doors locked. He wouldn't attack Ranok at his own house, would he? Honestly, kid, even before you arrived, I wouldn't bet a copper coin on what Andalt would or wouldn't do. Oh my god, it might be him. Tano sighs heavily. But that's insane. Just as insane as tackling your own alpha inside of his bedroom. He hints at my almost arrest, and I frown. The borders of sanity have been pushed quite a bit since you came here. But why would Andalt attack us? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. He mutters worriedly. Maybe because Trees told him to, or maybe he had another of his crazy visions. He's always been touched. There was no rhyme or reason to what he did, now more so than ever. My heart sinks a little and I feel a cold sweat dot my body. What does Andalt look like? Is he in the files? Let me see if he's in the files. Back. No. No, he's not in the files. I just went through them. Aww. This revelation unnerves me, more so since I don't know anything about this Andalt guy. Why am I learning about him being a problem just now? I guess Ranok and the others don't treat him as much of a threat. And considering he's a bit unhinged, why would they? Even if he wouldn't try anything, I doubt he could best Ranok in combat. Oh, I quite agree. Tano nods casually, throwing me off. Not many wolves would stand a chance against your guardian. But you? You're a different matter entirely. He lets his words hang a bit, biting his lower lip. All it takes is a well-placed stab. Doesn't even have to be a deep one. He pokes various parts of my body, starting with the abdomen, moving onto the chest, and finally the throat. A simple poke here or here, and especially here. White Wolf traces a line across my neck with his dull claw, and I shudder. So many places to choose from. Just a split second and you're done for, long before your wolf could even react. You're doing it on purpose, freaking me out and deflecting my attention to another. You're the one who asked for my help. I saw Andalt taking vigil at Ranok's house the very same night Vol had to save you from Tyron and Dreyer. You've been there? I blurred out in shock, causing the wolf to laugh. And guess who else had been there as well, hiding in the bushes on the other side. I followed him there. So that's why my senses went haywire. There were at least 5 wolves hidden in the shrubbery. He notices my consternation and smiles, condescendingly patting my shoulder. As I said, you look to the obvious threats like Aldris and her chubby fuck buddy, while staying completely oblivious to the most lethal one closing in on you from the day you arrived. Fuck. I hope this proves my current lack of ill will towards you. I want to talk back at his snide remark, but realize that it would lead to nothing good. And he proved quite useful at the moment. I think we've been away for long enough. We tarry some more, and Ranok will launch another rescue mission. I laugh involuntarily at his jab at the Grey Wolf's overprotectiveness, and it causes me to look at him with doubled suspicion. He seems quite dismissive of the elders as well. I really can't figure this guy out, and it's incredibly frustrating. No wonder others dislike him so much. How can I be sure that all of this isn't just some elaborate lie? Because I don't care enough about you to lie, let alone make it elaborate. The wolf states matter-of-factly through a chuckle, but I don't buy it. You seem mighty interested in me for that to be true. Why shouldn't I be interested? You're the biggest novelty of our generation. He laughs, shaking his head in disbelief. So you do care. Have you ever seen an eclipse? He proposes idly, and I decide to indulge him. I guess so. Fascinating, rare phenomenon. Rare phenomena, isn't it? When it's there, all you can do is stare, trying to understand the mystery behind it. Oh, most definitely. But once it's gone, your life continues like it never happened. He gives me a condescending look before his expression turns blank. Curiosity and caring are two different things. Don't confuse them. What is your endgame here? Like, for real. I know it's hard for you to believe it, but I told you the truth. I want you out of trouble for the sake of the tribe. He looks to me with a solemn expression. Since you speak our language so fluently, more so than some of the wolves I know, you understand well enough how pressing my people's situation is. But you've been saying that even before Regar has returned. I narrow my brows. His concern, had it emerged now after this briefing, would make perfect sense, but he acted concerned long before, almost as if he knew something was amiss. His tail swishes and he gives me a satisfied smirk. I see cogs begin to turn. Perhaps you're not a lost cause after all. The white wolf pats my back as we arrive at the feasting ground and walks off. It's nice to know you're not just an eloquent chew toy. Makes things that more interesting. He keeps fucking with me, little prick. But as much as he thinks he's smart, his ego does half of his talking. He just admitted he knew something was going on, something completely unrelated to me. I take a deep sigh and decide to let it go for now. It would appear we have returned in the nick of time as the chief and Ranok walk up to the platform back from their private conversation. Even the bunnies are back, serving refreshments between the tables. The Grey Wolf casts his curious gaze between Tano, who's just taking his seat, and me as I barely approach the table. His muzzle betrays he's suspecting something, and I sigh internally, knowing I'll have to make up another lame excuse. I put my hand discreetly onto his knee to reassure him, and to my surprise, it works. He smiles lovingly at me and turns his attention to the bonfire where Volk can be spotted returning with Varissa. Once they take their respective seats, the chief grabs his goblet and begins to use it as a gavel again, banging onto the table in a bid to grab everyone's attention. Settle down, please. Settle down. He calls out, putting an end to the casual conversations and mingling. He gives some time for the wolves to bolt back to their tables, more so since Aldris and Drawn are incredibly unwilling to end their plotting. Once they're seated in their downsized stools, he glances over to the empty spot beside him. Where's Vither? He asks quietly in the spot of full Regar, but the wolves only shrug. Vither, where the hell are you? His call echoes across the ground and a paw raises from a far-off table. Here, just give me a moment. The brown wolf responds as he gets up to his feet. He rushes towards us at a brisk pace, quickly taking his spot to his friend's left side. Last minute negotiating. He leans to Varrok's ear and mumbles loud enough for me to hear. Good. Did Volgor give you a rundown of what we discussed so far? The chief addresses the white female and she nods whilst pouring herself a glass of wine. Yes, although I've got the first paw count from the wounded. How are they going? Fryn lost a lot of blood but should pull through. Enya's in no immediate danger, however, her left arm is shattered like a piece of glass. She states heavily, taking a deep gulp. I did what I could to set the bones, but I can't make any promises beyond that. I've sent for Andalt, as I need an extra pair of paws, but no one has seen him in 2 days. And as much as I feel sorry for the 2 wounded wolves, my attention drifts immediately to the main suspect of our home invasion. Bad, that damned lunatic is probably hidden in one of the forest caves. He'd be more a hindrance to you than aid. The chief scoffs dismissively and then faces the grounds. So, you've all listened to Regar's account. I'm sure none here can question her integrity. Most of the wolves nod their heads and pat the tables in agreement. You have had the time to consider our situation and weigh whether it warrants the attention of the Howl. I know that we haven't convened one in nearly 10 years, and I do not take this issue lightly. It is my firm belief the current events call for decisive action. Again, the wolves pat their tables, this time with more zeal and energy. Hear, hear. So, anyone who thinks we should convene a howl, make their voice heard. Pretty much all of the gathered howled and growled, clanging their cups against the wooden tables in unison. It was a resounding cacophony of support for the notion. Anyone who is opposed to the idea, let it be known. Now only a few voices echo across the field, scattered between the far-off tables, drawing disapproving gazes of the majority. Well, there you have it. The chief looks towards Aldris, who sits on her stool with her arms crossed in the resting bitch face expression. Seems no matter how you spin this, our people consider what transpired as an urgent matter. All that's left for us is to take an official vote. Ranok? He asks his son without breaking eye contact with the nasty female. I vote in favor. Volgor? Aye. Regara? On my honor, aye. The chief turns towards the white wolf with slight reluctance, seeing as the male barely pays any attention to what's going on. Tano? Aye. The wolf responds to everyone's surprise, causing Aldris to utter a hushed growl. Even your little pet project can see reason when the stakes are high enough. The brown male smirks with satisfaction while the chief turns towards the shaman. Varissa? Aye, the wounded demand justice. The old wolf nods in satisfaction. Obviously, with Delron missing, his voice cannot be heard unless his father wants to speak for him. He turns everyone's attention to Aldris's shadow, and the male fidgets uncomfortably. But just as much as he's uneasy with the question, Aldris's muzzle beams with joy as she grabs her friend's shoulder and yanks it enthusiastically. Drawn, this is your chance to end this madness and veto this farce. I will not betray my son's confidence, even if I disagree with him. Drawn yanks his arm free, and everyone looks to the male with eyes wide open. Even Aldris is taking her back. Seeing Drawn stand up to her must be a rare sight indeed. Knowing what we know, had the situation been reversed and it was Regara missing out there, Delaron would have voted to summon Hal. Do you wish to vote for him then, forfeiting your elder's voice? Chief asks with a tone so filled with confusion that most looks between each other to ascertain they've heard it right. If you don't have the courage to do what needs to be done, then abstain, you damned fool. Aldris snaps in anger, getting up to her feet. She's standing over the male and he slumps in defeat. I'll abstain in both capacities. I'm a bit confused that she's allowed to intimidate someone else's vote, but I guess different rules govern their society. With Drawn being effectively silenced, the chief nods calmly, almost as if it didn't really matter. Perhaps he takes solace in the fact there's a wedge forming between those two. Saying that word. Well then, all we need is one elder to assent to this vote. You will never have my support in this matter. The pudgy female snarls, shaking her fist in the air as if it were a serious threat. I don't want it. The chief shrugs. You've brought all the support I needed. Enel? He looks to the ancient female, and since she is again asleep, Vol has to nudge her. Oh, yes, my chief? She mutters sleepily, and this time I have a hard time telling if she was faking it or not. We've just voted to summon the Howl. All we need is an elder's assent. Her voice shouldn't count. She is senile. Again, Aldris's harrowing screeching booms across the field, and Enel shivers uncomfortably. Ooh, I don't know. I haven't partaken in such important matters in quite some time. Exactly. Abstain, woman! The pudgy female continues her verbal harassment. Leave this matter to wolves whose minds are still clear. Enel, we're at an impasse here. The chief speaks calmly, looking to her with a gentle expression. I wouldn't ask you otherwise, but it's crucial we make a decision tonight, for the tribe. Oh, well, I've known you since you were a pup, Varrock. She gives him a kind smile. You always put the need of our tribe above your very own. If you think this is what's best, then of course you have my support. Thank you. He nods, issuing a sigh of relief. As always, you're a credit to our people. Vither, I trust you to send out the messages first thing in the morning. He turns to his friend and the brown male nods in agreement. Would you mind hosting her overnight? We'll need her seal on every parchment. Not at all. We'll have some good old story time at the fireplace. Vither laughs and winks towards Enel. Ooh, goody goody. I'll make you some mulled wine, the one you like so much. That will be splendid. Honestly, you'd think that the personalities would be switched between Enel and Aldris. You'd think it would, but it's not. Honestly, I love Enel. I love her. And that's it. The female clasps her hands in joy, her expression brightening on the spot. I could also catch up with that lovely girl of yours. She's an insubordinate bitch. Aldris growls again, causing the elderly female to blink in shock. Goodness, that's not a word one often hears among the gentry. Mark my words, Varrock, this will not play out the way you hope it will. The pudgy female issues her warning, turning her hateful gaze towards Enel. And as for you, this is the last time I've involved you in anything. Do you promise? She asks politely, drawing a surprised chuckle from the gathered. Not to sound ungrateful, dearie, but all this hassle is not good for a wolf my age. I very much like to be left undisturbed. No one within this tribe deserves more peace. No one within this tribe deserves more peace than you. The chief bows his head respectfully to Anel, while the pudgy female growls intensify until she almost until she almost sounds like a chainsaw. Hold up. So this is what Aldris sounds like. For a moment, everyone expects another outburst from the belligerent bitch, but seeing that pretty much all of the eyes are on her, Aldrich decides to storm off. As she's taking her leave, she shoves Drawn off his stool and into the dirt. What you did today took some courage. Vither bops his head towards the scrambling male, watching him slowly get back to his feet. Perhaps not battle courage, but courage nonetheless. I don't need your pity. Drawn sneers, looking at the chief with a mix of anger and desperation in his eyes. If you honestly believe this is as serious as all that, then at least send someone to get my son back. You have my word. The chief nods. I've already decided a pack would leave tomorrow. Tano, get your wolves ready. Me? The white wolf nearly spits out his wine in panic. Yes, you. You're the second fastest after Ranok. Your pack is mostly rangers. Vither pitches in. If there are any more scouts in our woods, you'll be able to fuck them in their asses. The gathered laugh and raise their cup to toast the proposed scenario. Also, I will be sending my son to Strandbard tomorrow. The chief reveals, and this takes me by surprise. I cast my worried gaze to Ranok, poking aside to draw his attention. The wolf only puts a finger to his muzzle, asking that I remain quiet, and returns to face his father. He'll treat him my name with a Tyree magistrate. We'll need good quality steel and other supplies should things escalate. Do you think it's a good idea? Perhaps I should go. No, I need you here. Besides, if he ever is to become a chief, he needs to learn. Father, with your permission, I would like to take my attendant with me. He seizes the opportunity, and I want to both exhale in relief as much as leap with joy at the prospect of travel. The human? Whatever for. His memory might be blank as of the moment, but that doesn't mean no one remembers him. Ranok states confidently. Perhaps in Strandbard, a clue to his origin would present itself. I don't see why not. The chief shrugs. As long as he won't slow you down. He won't. In fact, he could carry some of the load, easing the journey significantly. All this nasty business suddenly takes a second seat to the idea of visiting the Tiger Town. My mind begins racing with imaginings of that place. Very well. I guess that's all for tonight. We all have a busy morning ahead of us, so I suggest we all call it a day. Just before he leaves the table, the chief stops and rummages behind a fold of his kilt. He retrieves something akin to a decorative stamp and throws it to Vither. To save you the trip to the villa for my seal, you know what to do with it. Indeed. The brown male smiles. It would seem the chief wasn't joking when he said Vither does half of his ruling for him. He clearly trusts him enough to give him his seal. Then again, those two are incredibly close. With the chief taking his leave, the remaining wolves begin to disperse slowly. We stay at the table a few more minutes with the alphas finishing up their drinks and meals. Vol is desperately trying to grab Varissa's attention, despite Regara being seated between them. But each time he tries to do anything, he inevitably draws the attention of the towering female who mistakes herself as the target of his glances and keeps sending him flirtatious winks in turn. Not gonna lie, I enjoy watching Vol get flustered like that. You seem duller and more bemused than usual. I pick up Tano's hushed comment towards the white female. And here I thought it would be the first night when you keep your mouth shut. You're also touchier than usual. Mind your own damned business. Varissa rolls her eyes in annoyance. I was only asking, but I guess you don't want my help. I want you to shut up. I can clearly see she's upset and very much not interested in participating in any of the conversations. I notice that some of her fur, along with parts of the dress, are covered with dried blood splotches. Patching people up after battle must be a horrible experience, that's for sure. Before I dismiss her sour mood to the unpleasantness of her occupation, I notice the very same old rusty blade at her side. It's also covered in reddish residue. It's clear she washed it in haste, most likely rushing here for the vote. I can't imagine performing any sort of surgery with that thing. It's almost like operating on someone with a dinner knife. I shudder, imagining being stabbed with that thing instead of Vol's dagger. Though an unpleasant experience, his knife did go in effortlessly. In fact, the stab itself wasn't half as bad. It's what came after. I shake my head. Why would he buy her a fucking dress? A sharper blade would seem so much better a gift. As I finish my musings, so does everyone finish their meals. Regara downs her last cup of wine. She must have gone through at least a dozen by this point, yet there is no sign of her getting tipsy. Well, this was fun. V, take me and my wolves, will you? I won't be able to sleep a wink if I don't see them before I hit the hay. Of course. The white female nods and walks over. Seeing this, Vol empties remnants of Everclear from the clay bottle and gets up. Oh no. Verissa, you look... Vol... Please, Vol, don't. Not tonight. She utters in resignation. I was covered in the blood of our friends. The last thing I need are your tortured advances. If you ever get tired of rejection, you know where to find me, handsome. Regara chuckles. I know you're a first-timer. I'll be gentle. I'll try not to break anything you might need later. She uses another burst of laughter and follows behind the white female, leaving Vol in the proverbial dust. Doesn't take long for the black male to check out as well. Well, let's get home, Anel. Vither mutters between idle flicks of his fingers. I think that's it. Nope, I said it right. He gets up and throws away a chicken bone he just cleaned. Oh yes, let me get... Anel struggles to get up and I rush to her side to aid her. Ooh, gallant as always. I'm getting quite attached to that funny fella. He ain't that bad. The brown male comes to a stop in front of us and gently pushes me aside. I'll take over. Just a moment, love. Anel corrects Ranok's cape on her shoulders and looks towards the gray wolf. You'll be wanting this back. Oh no, keep it. It's a chilly evening. My wolf utters through a soft smile as he approaches us. Aren't you just a peach? I'll have Ivy return it to you on the morrow. See you later, little rascal. See you later, little rascal. The ancient female ruffles my hair and allows Vither to lead her away. Once there's some distance between us, I mutter quietly. Who's Ivy? She's Anel's attendant, a she-bunny almost as ancient as Anel herself. I thought you only took young ones for indentured service. I look to him in confusion. Me too. Ivy was with Anel since they were both our age. Jesus, how big was her debt? I nearly exclaimed, causing the wolf to laugh. Oh, that debt is long paid. Ivy decided to stay with Anel of her own volition. At this point, they're more like friends than anything else. The way wards are treated around here, I'm a bit surprised to hear that. Not all wolves are like Drawn and Aldris. Being a ward isn't a punishment. It's just a natural order of things. The strong are meant to protect the weak, and in turn, the weak serve the strong. Ward and warden's relationship is meant to be built on mutual respect and care. It's just some that chose to abuse this. You say that, but I don't think other wolves see it that way. Maybe. It's just something Anel had taught me when I was young. Oh, I ask, and Ranok fidgets uncomfortably. I lost my temper with the ward when I was a brash teen. I didn't strike him, but sometimes the things we say hurt just as much. His voice conveys evident shame and regret. She overheard me and gave me a lesson in humility. That explains it then. You had at least one good role model when it comes to relationship with wards. Hey now, my father doesn't abuse the bunnies. He sounds pretty defensive and I chuckle. True, but he doesn't befriend them either. The wolf smiles reluctantly, but his gaze ventures to the white wolf who's still sitting at the table. I need you to give me a moment. I have to talk with him. Ranok, nothing happened. We just walked in the same direction. Now that you say it, I know it's not exactly true. He gives me a knowing look. But I trust you. I have other business with him anyway. He's still one of us, and since my father is sending him out there, I want to brief him on what I've seen. Okay, good. Be nice to him. I say pleadingly. I know he can be an annoying dick, but he seems more confused than malicious. Ha! Ranok snorts in amusement, shaking his head. You're either a soothsayer or simply lucky with your observations. He continues to chuckle as he approaches the white wolf. I, on the other hand, am left alone, watching as the remaining stragglers slowly leave the grounds. My gaze darts from time to time towards Vol, who's simply walking between the tables, checking to see if there's any moonshine left in the clay bottles. Whenever he finds some, he simply downs it in one go, instantly searching for his next score. I sigh and decide to approach him. I know it might not be my place to say this, then don't say it. But, and you're going to say it anyway. He grumbles, taking another sip of the Everclear. I think you're going about her the wrong way. What do I have to make you mind your own damned business, piglet? The black wolf throws me an angered stare. Stabbing was not enough. Choking is not enough. Do I really need to kill you for you to fuck off? I sigh heavily, rolling my eyes as he's again in one of those moods. I have an idea for something you could do. Listen. He stops dead in his tracks, pulling me closer and bringing his snarling muzzle right to my ear. I might enjoy you, as one would enjoy a stray dog, but if you continue barking, I won't hesitate to strangle you until I pop your voice box like an overripe plum. I let him vent, his strained huffs of air brushing against my cheek and neck due to no effect. Once he calms down and increases the distance between us, I continue. You're drunk. I'll come back to this another. How is it that everyone keeps figuring out you can speak our language, yet it seems like you don't understand a fucking word I'm saying? He growls, smashing a clay bottle on the ground and storming off. Fuck this noise. A few remaining wolves look in my direction but quickly shrug it off as a dumb ward annoying the most volatile of wolves. I guess in such a light there isn't much to see. I look back to Ranok where he might have seen the spat, and to no surprise, he did, but his conversation with Tano seems to take priority. I give them some more time just idling around the dying bonfire. Eventually their exchange is concluded and Ranok comes to fetch me. What was that about? Nothing, Vol being Vol as always. I sigh in resignation. Or you being you? He teases reluctantly and I chuckle. That too. Come, let's head home. The first leg of our walk back happens in complete silence, mostly on the account of small groups of wolves hanging around the entries of different houses. I can hear them discussing the events at the border, and as we pass them by, each group nods respectfully to Ranok. They seem to approve and even admire his valor, and it makes me proud to walk beside him. But instead of enjoying this well-deserved recognition, Ranok feels rather defeated. I can't help but notice that his tail is slightly tucked in, and his ears aren't exactly upright. I have my suspicion confirmed when we enter the last stretch of the road leading to the cottage. With no soul around, we could speak freely, but Ranok remains silent. I can see something's troubling him, but decide to allow him a few moments to collect his thoughts. If he continues shutting down once we get home, I'll try and prod. Right, you get inside and set up some fire. I need to check the surrounding for any disturbances. I want to help. No, he says sternly. You would only confuse my senses and possibly disturb any clues. I look to him with worry, but the wolf doesn't budge. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. You on the other paw. Okay, I'll leave you to it. I concede and enter the cabin, hanging up my cloak and approaching the stove in order to set up the fire. Once the flames dance merrily, I bring 2 cups of ale to the table, but otherwise don't move much in treating the place like a crime scene. I rest myself comfortably against the table and lock my gaze with the crackling fire. I'm startled a little when I hear the window thud behind me, only to see the shutters close. Ranok's instinctively doing what Tano had suggested. I'm not sure how I feel about this whole situation. Once I hear the third set of shutters close, the wolf finally returns with a rather defeated expression. And? Nothing. It's getting a little too horny in here. The wolf sighs in annoyance, taking off his pauldron. He drops various parts of his gear despondently. Even his sword falls to the ground with a loud thud to the wolf's indifferent shrug. Yeah, I'm going to end it like after the whole ordeal, so we'll need to lock them from the inside. There's a latch that bolts them into the sill. He points towards the windows and a nod in understanding, opening each one and securing it. Okay. You said we're safe. I'm going to trust you on that. While I do so, Ranok starts sniffing about, both literally and figuratively, reaching up high with his nose, then low to the ground, almost haunching like a beast. I watch as he scans the kitchen with his gaze, his nose twitching in search of any sign of disturbance. The wolf steps carefully into the bedroom to do the same, but quickly returns slightly confused. All I can smell is lavender. I narrow my brows and take a deep inhale. And now that you mention it, so can I. My soap isn't this strong, though. Ranok shakes his head. No, it's dried florets. Someone used them to mask their scent. I can't recognize who's been here. The wolf responds to a soft growl, and I place my calming hand onto his shoulder. I mean, everything seems in place. They didn't touch anything either. He exhales in partial relief. Otherwise, it smelled of perfumed residue. Seems that whoever was here didn't do much at all. Maybe it was just meant as a scare. Whatever the reason, I'd look at the weary wolf with worry. Well, then perhaps it was nothing. I propose with a hopeful tone. Maybe someone was just checking if you're in. Why lavender, though? He looks to me with his green eyes focused and determined. It's a bit odd someone entered our home smelling like their newly acquired toiletry. When you put it like that, I mutter, rubbing my neck awkwardly. It will definitely pan out with someone creepily stalking me. And considering what Tano had told me, Andalt fits the bill perfectly. For a moment, I actually want to talk about this with Ranok, but seeing his troubled expression and reminding myself of what was being said at the feast, I just can't bring myself to trouble him further. Andalt seems harmless by everyone's account, bit unhinged but otherwise manageable. I'd far rather focus on alleviating whatever troubles my wolf right now than worry about some mishap of a slightly confused wolf. When Ranok plops resigned into his chair, I decide it's time to lift up the mood. He's been acting off for a while now. You know what? It doesn't matter. I shake my head. For all we know, it's a stupid prank or a misunderstanding. Let us focus on here and now. I grab one tankard and push it towards him, seating myself comfortably opposite the deflated wolf and taking a sip. But despite my efforts, Ranok seems as defeated as before, and it doesn't seem to be related to the house intrusion either. He's been all over the place since he came home. Your mood quickly turned. I mutter casually, trying not to sound too pushy. I thought you'd be excited about tomorrow. I know I am. Imagine, the famous Strandbard. I mean, you don't have to imagine it. You've been there. I chuckle, shaking my head at my poor choice of words. But I kept wondering how it all looks, not to mention meeting a tiger. How do you say it? Kin? Folk, actually. He responds indifferently. So tiger folk. He nods. Kin is more appropriate if you refer to your own kind, although most use it in colloquial speech. Tigers are a bit stuck-uppy on the matter. So you're not a wolfkin, then? I am to my own kind. To you, I'm woven folk. That can't be right. I narrow my brow in confusion. What's the singular form of folk? Fellow? I snort in amusement, and he looks at me with a puzzled expression. Wolf fellow sounds ridiculous. I think I'll stick to wolfkin. How about you stick to just Ranok? He teases and finally takes up his mug. Seeing his smile waver again, it becomes clear I need to be more direct. What did your father want, if you don't mind me asking? Not at all. He shakes his head. He told me about the things we need to secure from Strandbard. Steel, potions, salves, along with provisions. What sort of provisions? Foodstuffs, non-perishables. He sighs, taking a deep gulp of ale. As you've heard, we had a few harsh winters in a row. Our stockpiles are running low. You don't seem to be doing that bad, considering the buckling tables at the feasts. It's not like that. We have the food, but if there's a war coming, we might need grain, something we don't grow in large quantities. Seems straightforward, then. I muse, looking at him intently. His expression isn't changing even one bit. Was there anything else you've discussed? No, that's pretty much it. He shrugs and I sigh heavily. He's not going to tell me unless I force him to. Then why the long face? You seemed fine at the feast, and now, not so much. I was happy to see you. He states plainly, drilling his sad green eyes into me. And you've taken me by surprise for a moment. The wolf chuckles, rubbing his forehead as if he were scolding himself. For a brief moment, I forgot everything that had happened. You mean the battle? Yeah. His voice is completely devoid of any humor, and I swallow heavily. What Regard described sounded horrible. I haven't seen half of what she has seen, yet still... He struggles to speak, clenching his eyes and teeth. I get up to my feet and walk towards him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Do you want to talk about it? I don't know. I can feel him contract, almost as if he cringed at the sheer idea of opening up. At the feast, despite of what sounded pretty messed up and cruel, they kept their mask of levity. I mean, they are a society of warriors. I suppose appearing soft is scoffed at. Shh, it's okay. I mutter as he shudders. We don't have to talk about it if you'd rather not. Just know that I am here for you. At first he seems to continue to shut me off, but after a moment of silence, he turns to me reluctantly and sighs. I wouldn't even know where to start. You can start in your own time, at your own pace. I try to sound reassuring, ruffling his shoulder fluff. You can start by telling me in your own words what really happened out there. No crowds to appease or elders to impress. Just you and me. I smile, looking into his worried eyes with love and care. At first he smiles back, but then the wolf takes a deep breath and gets up to his feet in a sluggish fashion. I watch as he walks over the cupboard and retrieves the flagon of moonshine. His fangs grip at the cork, and he unplugs the bottle on his way back to the table. I want to fetch him a clean cuff, but the wolf simply sits heavily into the chair and empties his remaining ale in one go. Once done, Ranok pours himself some Everclear, only to bob the bottle inquisitively in my direction. No thanks, I'm fine. I mutter, to which he only shrugs and downs the contents in one thirsty gulp. The wolf takes a deep breath and lowers his head, locking his tired gaze with the floor. I can feel his body tensing. When I arrived there, I heard screaming. No, not screaming. Battle cries drowned out only by the ringing of steel. Once I finally cleared the ridge obscuring my view, I couldn't understand what was happening. My sister pack was beset by wolves I've never seen in my life. Our kin. and they were enraged. He shakes his head, looking at me with deep sadness in his eyes. This was no ordinary battle. I could see that my friends were worn down, and the enemy was frothing at the mouth, almost like wild beasts eager to score a kill. It took me a while to take it all in. That's when two of the nearest wolves noticed me. They disengaged and looked at me as confused as I look at them, but all of it melted away, replaced by hateful snarls. Everything went quiet as I stood frozen, seeing them rush in my direction. He pauses to take a deep breath as if he felt ashamed. I feared death, not death itself actually, but I feared for my unfinished business with those I left behind should I fall. I feared for what would happen to you should I not return. In that split second, I realized that this wasn't only about them and me. I was there to make sure I get my friends safely home, so that I can get back to you. Again, his green eyes lock with mine, and I take hold of his paw, squeezing it slightly. It was 2 lives against the many, and that allowed my instincts to take over. The first one, though, he was fat enough to lunge at me. He wasn't. Sorry. He chuckles nervously, clearly trying to hide how unsettled he really was. I smile back at him softly. I parried, and before he even realized, his head was already sliding off his shoulders, the whites of his hateful eyes trembling in shock as it dawned on him that he was done. The second wolf hesitated, seeing his friend decapitated with a single blow, which allowed me to rush him and push my blade right through his chest. Again, I looked into the enemy's eyes. I don't think he expected to die. The disbelief taking over his muzzle startled me, so I thrust deeper to ensure he did. I swallow heavily, still squeezing his hand in support. He gurgled blood, spitting some onto me, and finally, his legs went soft. I don't know why, but I grabbed him close so that he wouldn't fall. I laid him gently onto the ground and shared his final moments. He took 2 more rattled breaths with his paw shaking in final tremors. I grabbed it and held it firmly, almost as if to give him courage to slip into the eternal dark. Because you're a good wolf, no one deserves to die alone. I interject, lifting up his chin and making his glossy eyes meet with mine. Maybe I did it to avoid feeling guilt. He shrugs, rubbing his eyes and looking away towards the window. In any case, that's when Regar's rallying cry pulled me out of my stupor. The sound of battle raging all around me returned, and I got back to my feet. After that, everything was a blur. My mind was racing, and everything happened so fast. But by the end, all but 3 of the strangers were dead. He reaches out for the flagon and pours himself another generous portion of moonshine. At first, I want to protest and ask him to go slower at it, but quickly realized it wouldn't be fair, not after what he told me. So I let him down the cup whole instead of preaching at him. I simply listen. It takes a moment or 2 to compose himself, but soon enough he continues. Regar wanted to pursue, and I think we would have hunted those wolves as if they were feral rabbits. He sneers, baring his fang in clear anger. When a heart pumps blood as hard as mine did, you don't think, you just do. Of course, I nod. You did what had to be done. Had to? His surprised gaze meets with mine, and I'm taken aback. Did I accidentally make another slip of tongue? We didn't have to do anything, had those wolves not been there. In fact, even if they trespassed, there was no need for any of this. They wanted Regara dead, her and her entire pack. Why? I don't know. I mutter in a saddened tone. I can see this is tearing at him. How did it come to this? What makes one become so cruel towards a complete stranger? To wish him dead, by your own paws nonetheless. His heavy voice makes my heart sink, and I feel slightly choked up. I let a moment of silence overtake us as I absorb all he has said. Do you remember the tiger noble we talked about? Please. He mutters pleadingly, and I look at him with worry. You want to rub that in my face now? I understand you're hurting. I respond softly, but still conveying slight offense in my tone. Do you think I would have brought it up just to have another jab at you? I just want to make a point to help you wrap your head around this crazy situation. The wolf looks to me with worry, but eventually nods in resignation, allowing me to continue. Your people executed that tiger, not because they hated him, or because the tiger was evil. Your people did it because they believed he had done something unforgivable. When people believe things strongly, they can sometimes take that belief too far. He listens carefully, although his entire posture is getting more deflated. Now, I don't know what those wolves far up north believe, but they believe it's strong enough to put swords in their paws and march right into your territory. They believe killing you is the right thing to do. I might not know where I come from, but I know this. Bullies never stop. And from what I heard at the feast, those wolves will continue believing they have a right to harass and attack you unless proven otherwise. You had no choice. It was you or them. I finally draw his attention and muster a loving smile to encourage the defeated wolf. And I, for one, am glad it was them. I killed 2 people, he mutters in protest. I know what you think. They were wolves. That's why it bothers me. He sounds accusatory, throwing his hurt gaze at the side. Wolves or not, I don't care. Be they rabbits or humans or even damned tigers, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is that I took 2 lives. It's not what I think at all. I know you're not like that. He looks to me with his glossy eyes barely containing the tears. One moment they were there and the next, they weren't. I sent 2 beings into the eternal dark. You were defending your friends. I reply almost automatically. I've never killed before. In the heat of the battle, I wasn't thinking about it, but once it was all done, once I saw the dead bodies on the ground... He shivers slightly, and 2 drops finally trail down his cheeks. Not knowing what to say, I embrace him tightly, allowing him to simply let his emotions flow. For a while, nothing happens, but as the time passes, the tremors rocking his body intensify, and finally his heavy breathing breaks into a subdued weep. They're just kids. All of them. Despite their tough-looking exterior, they're really just kids, like me or any other people living normal lives. They might have spent their childhoods playing with weapons and training to fight, but at the end of the day, wielding them in actual combat is another thing entirely. I can't say I know how you feel. I mutter softly, but loud enough so he could hear me over his own sobbing. I can't really imagine it. It must be a horrible burden to carry at such a young age. But just because you killed someone, it doesn't make you a killer. I try to reassert it, contradicting the fear that clearly has taken hold of him. Seeing that you have such an averse reaction proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the opposite. His rattled breath begins to subside as he tries to listen to what I say. Your friends were fighting for their lives. It was a matter of choosing between them or strangers who wished them harm. It's a choice most would make without a second thought, to protect others regardless of personal cost. In fact, it's a choice you've made in this very house. I nod towards the bedroom door. Right there, when your father wanted to execute me. You were almost naked, yet you showed such ferocity that it took 2 armed guards to restrain you. You're very protective of those around you. That's a good thing. I try to sound encouraging, rubbing his cheek, fluff of moisture, and he locks his shaky gaze with me. It means you're willing to go to great lengths to keep your loved ones safe. I hope that when the time comes and my own resolve is tested, I do the same. He takes a deep sigh and without a word pulls me into a deep kiss. Is this where the CG is? Let me go into the files real quick. Because I want to be prepared. Hang on. I found it. Yo, I think it died for a minute. His warm tongue slips between my trembling lips and I seize up, feathering out my fingers in surprise, and suddenly everything goes silent. No crickets outside, no rustles of leaves, nor crackling of fire, just our anxious heartbeats resonating in the nothingness. I'm gonna risk it. He steals my breath and gives it back again. At first, I dare not to move, closing my eyes and allowing him to overpower me. My senses abandon me, and I cling to him as the only certain thing in this suddenly dizzy world. Wolf gently lowers us onto the floor as he explores my mouth uncontested. His tongue wriggles and pushes at mine, trying to get me to engage, and before I know it, I am kissing him back. As his paws roam freely across my body, brushing my chest, my groin, cupping my butt, our tongues join in a passionate dance. I can taste the burning Everclear, and my breath speeds up, seeing how he towers above me. I feel his entire muscular form press against mine, and finally, he slides his right paw underneath the dress. I gasp in excitement, unable to believe that this is really happening. Show this. The kiss breaks, but just for a moment so that both of us can catch a breath. Our eyes meet, equal in their disbelief. He's trembling, clearly not expecting his desires to take over so suddenly. I reach up to ruffle his cheek fluff and give him courage. Wholesome images. I don't want him to back down or falter. The wolf leans into my open palm and I exhale in anticipation. Just... Not yet. When they go into the bedroom, then censor. Okay. He's just as love-stricken as I am, his pupils gleaming with utter devotion. We're both lost in the mirrors of our souls, simply taking in the other for all they're worth. Feels like an eternity gazing into his loveful eyes. Before I know it, the wolf quickly dives back towards me. He's kissing me deeper, harder. He's doing it with an urgent need I've never felt before. And I want it too. I want to sink into his fur, for him to squash me against the wooden floor, so I grab his shoulder and pull, letting him know it's okay. Sorry, but I'm not risking it. He allows his weight to rest against me, and I gasp, his tongue still coiling deep inside my mouth. I can feel his... Oh god, and I feel out of breath, almost as if I ran a marathon. He groans softly, his low voice reverberating down into my throat, and once he issues a muffled growl of excitement, I'm already gone. I begin hastily undoing my buckle, and he aids me in pulling the dress off me. Still wearing pants, but I'm still keeping it up. We throw each bitten piece carelessly around us as he picks me up into his arms and leads through the bedroom threshold as if I were a bride. He plops me playfully onto the bed, and I splay myself seductively. I watch him patiently, biting my lips as he undoes his pants and drops him hastily to the floor. And that's way too horny for me. The bed moans as he rushes onto it, again covering me entirely with his massive furry body. I look as he hovers above me, smiling satisfaction like a hunter who has finally cornered his prey. I reach out to his muzzle and pull him into another passionate kiss while my hands reach down to his loincloth. Oh god. I don't think I want to read this. I undo the folds and let it fall freely, allowing the wolf to now press me against with the... Okay, I'm not reading that. I can't. He rasps in a low, trembling voice. I can see his body shivering, and I'm not sure what actually went wrong. I mean, I can, but if we do this, I can't promise I'll be able to control myself. He admits uncomfortably, laying his ears low and looking embarrassed to the side. What? I want to claim you. I desperately need to make you mine, and that's why I know I can lose myself in the process. The wolf exchanges a long, anxious breath, and I smile. I don't mind you getting a bit rough. You're a wolf after... Oh, wow. Wow. I say, finding myself sounding more excited at the prospect than appropriate. I place my hand on his paw, trying to give him some encouragement, but he closes his eyes. See... It's very cute. Going to sleep. Hey, yo! Okay. But as I opened my eyes, I met with both unfamiliar and yet oddly recognizable scenery. It's a room, not the one in the forest, but an actual room of a modern-day youth. There's some random posters and hobby paraphernalia, figurines, and even a corkboard with different cards and pictures. I immediately spot a PC at the desk, although the display is rather old and boxy. Even the window offers the view of a concrete jungle I thought I would never see again. I struggled to pull the covers from me, but eventually managed to slide my legs off the edge. Groggily and with a lot of effort, I managed to sit up and give this place another look. What the fuck? Nearly jump as the doors suddenly crack open and a strange yet familiar woman enters the room. She looks like a typical 50s housewife. Oh, finally, there you are! She rushes towards me with a wide smile, and in panic, I slide off the bed, my legs still very much stiff and unresponsive. Is this what you meant? Careful. Woman mutters and helps me up to my feet. She acts so friendly and forward that I keep staring at her intently, trying to conjure any memory of her, all to no avail. The doctor said your muscles would take some time to adjust. She continues once she's sat me back on the bed. But none of that matters right now. Everyone will be so relieved. She claps her hands together and takes a joyful whirl in the middle of the room, causing her dress to spiral and unfurl like an umbrella. What? She's acting like a sitcom mom, sickeningly sweet and joyful. Granted, if I were out for a while, it would have been a somewhat natural reaction, but this feels off. I gaze around the room, noticing different wishing cards along with some balloons and garlands. There's even a welcome back Kalen sign. What is all this? Do you like it? I was in charge of decorating. She seats herself next to me and pets my face in a motherly fashion. Each day I would sit here beside you, thinking what to say when you finally wake up. Well, how long was I out? Doesn't matter. She shakes her head, grasping at my hand. What matters is that you're back here, where you belong. Belong? Again, I make a careful scan of the room. Although it looks vaguely familiar, I do not feel I really belong here. Will you look at that? She suddenly scoffs and gets up, poking merrily at her wristwatch and making a silly face for emphasis. Your father is running late again. He promised he'll be back in time for dinner, but you know him. She swishes her hand dismissively and approaches the doors. Do I? I don't hide doubt in my tone, and she stops, turning on the heel to give me another goofy expression. Of course you do, Kalen. What a silly thing to ask. For some reason, her calling me that makes my stomach churn, but despite grimacing, she doesn't seem to mind. Anyway, I made your favorites, pizza and an apple pie. So, 2 pies? I blink, again casting my gaze at my room in confusion. Come, get yourself changed and join me in the kitchen. She waves her paw invitingly and disappears into the adjacent room. We're going to leave off here tonight. What the fuck? What the fuck? Yeah, I saw in the comment. But that's not what I'm worried about right now. I'm worried about what the fuck is going on. I'm sorry, I need like eye bleach right now. I need some fucking eye bleach right now. I need some... God damn it. I need some goddamn eye bleach right now. I need some goddamn eye bleach right now. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. I genuinely don't know. Okay, that should be enough. That should be enough. But it'll never be enough. Oh god. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought of this thing that's fucking hilarious. And it aligns with, let me bring up the window. With, this, thing right here. Mom, get the fuck out of my room. I'm playing Minecraft. Mom, get the fuck out of my room. I'm having dreams about fucking a hot wolf man. Okay, I'm gonna leave off tonight. I need to make a video. I'm gonna try and find a video that I can make of Baby Ty. Just to process what the actual fuck just happened. So, stay safe, have a good night, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.